Welcome, welcome. This is Russ Moody, and this is part two of the Skaven Visual Tactica. And what we're going to go on to is, again, under the major heading of attrition, this is the second principle in working with Skaven. And I've called this one, the principle is the drawn out combat. And so we're going to talk about, again, pretty much what to do as far as the Skaven go with the drawn out combat. And what you're looking at in a drawn out combat situation is the units involved would be clan rats, plague monks, any unit pushing a bell or furnace, a horde of giant rats, and the doom wheel actually also goes in this category of drawn out combats. And I'll explain that in a minute. And also, as far as banners, what you're looking at here is you're looking at Banner of the Under Empire or the Shroud of Dripping Death would be ideally would be the banners also involved in a situation like this. So with that, you're also going to want things that can carry those banners. So you might also want a horde of storm vermin. Going against the enemy units, this principle is really effective, and this is the focus here is going to be on core units of the enemy and large horde units. Because those would be pretty much the situation where this would happen. Against elites or against any other type of a unit, you're not really going to have drawn out combats. You're going to have things that are going to last at most 4 rounds. But what we're talking about here with the drawn out combat, we're talking about those combats where you just sit there in close combat and each other until you get down to pretty much nothing on either side. So first picture I've got here is I've set up 2 armies, and I don't know about the points, and roughly it's around 2,500, I'd say, somewhere in there. Anyway, I didn't add it up exactly, but it's close to even. If anything, there might be a slight advantage to the orcs. And of course, not really, because again, when I'm doing these tacticas, I've actually thrown magic out the window, because Skaven magic is awesome, and so for the most part, you're going to do your damage with your magic, and they're going to do their damage with their magic, and as long as magic, it would fall under its own tactical thread, and so I've ignored magic for that purpose, because really what's going to happen with magic is, if anything, it's probably going to help you out more than your enemy, because Skaven magic is devastating and very destructive. So versus most players, the type of magic that they're going to run against you, it's going to help their units fight better, and that doesn't matter against Skaven because they already fight better than you do. So as you can see here, I've got a unit of gutter runners on that side, on the left side, 40 storm vermin. There's the warp fire thrower next to them. That's 60 slaves with spears, then a 40 clan rat bunker with a poison wind mortar, and in the back there, and the general BSB is in there. A doom wheel, 30 some odd plague monks, and then 7 plague censer bearers. And then in horde formation, next to that is 30 more plague monks, and next to them is another group of 7 censer bearers. And deployed against a alternate horde army, as you see there, we've got some boar boys, some orc biggins with dual choppas, a huge unit of night goblins, a spider, and 40 black orcs, which I think is relatively standard for what you might see in another horde army. You're going to have 3, depending on the size of the game, you're going to have 3 to 4 hordes, and then some smaller units and 1 or 2 monsters in there. So going up, Skaven turn 1, you get as close as you can, and then their reaction is to do that, being that for the most part, when the Skaven advance, you're going to be 14 inches away, which means your opponent is not likely to get any charges, and any charge that they would get would actually be to your advantage, because it's going to throw out their battle line and expose them to a flank charge. So all your opponent's going to do is something like what these orcs have done, and they're going to angle to try and get the most optimal position for when you charge in. And then I'm going to show real quick what the counter is to that kind of type of maneuvering. So here, what we've done is this is a focused attack. Pretty much what's happening, what's going on here is this unit, as you can see, I'm focusing on breaking the center, and then I'm going to try and mop up. And so for that effect, to that effect, we've got the big unit of plague monks and then big unit of slaves that have both gone into the night goblins. And the idea here is simply that the plague monks are going to do enough attacks and enough wounds to hopefully win combat, and then the slaves are going to provide the ranks to make them not steadfast. And you shatter the unit and go from there. And as you see on both the right and the left flanks, the units have moved up to get to pretty much counter, because as you saw, they moved the orc player positioned their units so that if you were to charge in, you expose your flank. As a Skaven player, that's pure disaster, and you can never do that. You can never give your opponent a flank charge. It's always better to go ahead and position yourself so that you can flank charge your enemy, and then just wait. Because again, this is under the concept of attrition, and this is the drawn out combat. You're not looking to necessarily go in there and just wipe the floor with your opponent. You're looking to go in there and one unit and just grind him down to nothing. So, because that's really, and to that end, if you had a furnace and a bell, that would actually be even better in this situation, because your bell would be in the center with something ridiculous like 90, 100 clan rats or something, and that's what would be hitting that center unit of night goblins, and you would just lock it up for forever. Or similarly, you could do the same thing with 40 plague monks and a plague furnace, and you would just lock those night goblins up for forever because you're not going anywhere. And so positions like that, the Doom Wheel has gone after the spider, because that's what the Doom Wheel's there for, is to kill monsters. And this is the orc player reaction, because as you've seen, if in this horde list, there was no shooting on the other side, which means the orc player has to charge in, because if not, you'll just stay there in the middle, locked up, until the middle is completely gone, and just hold those flanks and just sit there while your weapon teams and your magic just whittles the opponent down to nothing. And if that's what your opponent chooses to do, well, then you're going to win. So you pretty much force them to charge you, and now you force them to charge on the terms that you've said. So what we've got here is, you'll see the spider's gone into the Doom Wheel, and it's not likely to kill the Doom Wheel, even though it could, because there's that venom sting, which is potentially there's a chance it'll die. However, not likely. And I also should have mentioned that by moving the Doom Wheel up like that previously, its target was going to be the giant spider with its lightning, and there's a good chance that you will actually just kill that spider with your lightning before it even gets to you. So you've seen that everything on the orcs has gone in. The storm vermin have moved up previously and reformed to be deep, because again, it's a situation. And if you saw the previous video with suicide and attrition, the concept is that those storm vermin are not going to beat a unit of orc biggins with dual choppas. It's not going to happen. So they've gone deep to just try and grind it out. And on this flank, what happened is after the charge, this is the plague monks. They've got the plague banner. They're going to just kill a ton of these guys, and then they're going to kill a ton of you. But you pop that plague banner the first round when they charge in, so that you win combat and you stick there. And then if the unit's still there, most likely, and then we've got your two plague sensor bearers coming in on the sides to finish off the trap. Because again, we're talking about drawn out combats. So your goal isn't to charge in and to win that combat. Your goal is to just suck them in and start that grinding down process. And right here, this unit will eventually evaporate and leave you free with a good number of troops to try and sweep the flank. And over here again, fighting in the middle, the most likely result actually, as it was set up, is that those Night Goblins might just break. However, with the BSB reroll, they might hold. Now, the way this is set up is also significant because they've got two options. Now, most Night Goblin blocks are going to have those three big boss characters, and he's got some choices as far as allocating those attacks. And now, which means he can either use them to mainly cut down those slaves, which would be easy kills, or since he's strength 6, he might as well actually be going after the Plague Monks because they will die just as easy. The trade-off is that if he goes after the slaves, he will most likely win combat, but those Plague Monks are just going to just devastate the unit and grind down those ranks. Now, alternatively, if he concentrates most of his effort on the Plague Monks, then he can maybe kill enough of them off so that they're no longer going to be steadfast, but that they might not have the rank bonus to stick around and would run away. But if that's the case, that actually works out fine, because if those Plague Monks run away, you've now got this huge unit of slaves that is more or less untouched, locked up with these Night Goblins, and you got your weapon teams that are now just going to start shooting into that huge block and whittle it down further. Not to mention casting magic in there or any other spells that you want to cast. Again, with this overall strategy as far as magic goes, you're going to want to be running Plague. We've seen the results here, and they're fighting lots of storm vermin dying, but managed to still have enough rolls, having enough guys to hold for at least for the one for sure, and then the second round possibly holding long enough for Skaven turn 3, and hopefully by now you've collapsed that other flank, or if not, you've got some magic options. You've also got your bunker that's in reserve, and the idea would be to then possibly move your general out of that and just push those clan rats in to fill the gap and further tie them up and wear them down. So that's the general idea. And again, the idea is that this is what you do in a Skaven situation, and as you can see here, it's actually pretty evenly matched. Hopefully, what you would have done is you would have used your own magic to get rid of a lot of those numbers. And one thing I just realized I should have talked about that I didn't: the gutter runners up on the left. Since there were no war machines, the gutter runner's goal in this scenario would have been to delay the cavalry, and that's what I had them do. If you can see that in the corner of the picture, is those gutter runners just went up there. They're going to stand and shoot, take the charge, and die, which goes back to, again, remembering the principle of suicide, because all you want to do is just whittle down that cavalry, make it so there's only a single rank of cavalry, so that it can't disrupt your steadfast. So right here, and again, it's about grinding down. And remember, the real goal with the Skaven is just to last. The longer you last, the more time it gives your magic, especially your plague spells and the dreaded 13th, to just remove models from the enemy. And hopefully through your suicide units and through the drawn out combat, you can just whittle the enemy down. The other thing to mention as a last note too is once those storm vermin also break, you'll notice there's the warp fire thrower. It gets to stand and shoot. So after they break them, they overrun, or if not, the warp fire thrower then gets to also perform a suicide roll, and it will fire on into those big guns and hopefully kill quite a number of. The idea is to hopefully when this is all done, you want to be left with maybe 20 big guns or less, something that you can spell down to almost nothing. And like I said, you've still got your clan rat bunker, and if there's less than 20 of them there, your 40 clan rats should be able to take the rest of them down. Anyway, so that's that. Please post your comments, and also remember that while this is not the only way to play Skaven, these again are just things, ideas to think about mainly, so that you can apply them. And the other thing you'll notice too is with this army that I put on the table, I'll go back to the first picture here so you can see the whole thing. This is by far not an optimal build at all. As you see, I've got a single doom, I've got a single rare choice, and one block of slaves. So ideally, what you're actually going to have in a Skaven game is you're going to have 2 to 3 blocks of slaves, a bell or a furnace, and just because again, those are the choices that will work even better to this playstyle. Because if you're looking at the concept of attrition and broadly, and the principles of suicide and the drawn out combat, those are really your effective winners. And then going also, you noticed one other thing with the combat. I mentioned I was going to talk about the Banner of the Under Empire and Dripping Death. Both of these also are banners that would apply to this. You could put them in this situation. You could have either of those banners on the Storm Vermin, or in with your plague, in with a group of plague monks. And the idea here is you would use one of those banners to further whittle down the enemy. So like in this case, I actually had thought of ideally you would probably want the Banner of the Under Empire in the plague monks. So you're doing 2d6 strength 2s to the night goblins, and I believe that those are being magical and shooting attacks. So you would still be winning them in 5s or 6s. It amounts to getting rid of 2 or 3 more night goblins a turn and further whittling them down faster. Anyway, there it is. There's Principle 2, Drawn Out Combat. And stay tuned, and I'll continue this Tactica later. Bye.